Myers, and I represent Durham University. I'm an international officer, and I am based regionally out of Austin, Texas. So the first part of this presentation, I'll be going over what you can expect at Durham, any funding opportunities, the application process, and so on and so forth. Then we'll hear a little bit about our Faculty of Arts and Humanities and our School of Modern Languages as well. And then we'll finally wrap up the session with a Q&A from one of our current students, Darby Haynes, who is our current Fulbright student on campus. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get started. All right, so a little bit about Durham, some quick facts and figures for you here. So we were established as a university in the year 1832, and we're actually the third oldest university in England apart from Oxford and Cambridge. The whole city of Durham is a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site, so that includes the beautiful cathedral that you see in the background here, but also our Durham Castle, which is owned and operated by the university and is one of our student residence halls. That's very unique even within the UK. Both structures date back to the 1000s. Durham is a very historic city, so there's many protected sites in and around the Northeast as well. We have 17 colleges of residence, so we are a collegiate university, very similar to Oxford and Cambridge. Our collegiate system's done a little bit differently. Students usually get the option and the choice to rank their colleges in preferential order, but it's a big social aspect of your experience at Durham. So you can get involved in many sports clubs, societies. We do gowned formal dinners. It's a very much social and wonderful experience about Durham here. We have about 21,500 students, so we're about a mid-sized institution within the UK. Right now, I think we've got about 4,700 postgraduate students on campus, and right now we have over 200 US postgraduate students represented on campus, so a nice little subset there. But overall, the entire university is 33% international. And that's not just students, that's faculty members as well, representing over 100 different countries. So we are very internationalized. You can, have different discussions from students of different backgrounds, different, languages that they've grown up learning and whatnot. So it's a very, very unique experience. All right, a little bit about where we are located. If you're unfamiliar, Durham is up in the northeast of England. We are just south of Newcastle here. We are quite literally only maybe 12 to 15 minutes on the train from Newcastle, depending on if it does one of the stops along the way. From Edinburgh, we're about an hour and 45 minutes by train. And then from London, it's about a 3-hour train ride. But I mean, for US students, I always say the UK is very easy to navigate and get around, especially with the public transportation system that is available to students. And students can even get a nice discounted rail pass as well. But the Northeast is, I mean, obviously I work for Durham, so it's one of my favorite places to be, but it's very charming and beautiful. And you'll hear that from many people within the UK and that people who go to visit the Northeast. So some of these photos that I've included here, the photo at the very top, this is of Bamborough Castle along a couple miles long stretch of beach here. The photo in the center, that is of Lindisfarne Island, just north of Durham. It dates back to the year 600 AD. And then the photo at the bottom here, this is a photo of High Force Waterfall, which is inside of North Pennines, a protected geopark in the northeast of England. So if students are really interested in being in nature, surrounded by history, even nearby some of the coast, some beaches there, this is going to be a really great and beautiful area for them to discover. Where you may have seen Durham before, the first two Harry Potter films were partially filmed in our cathedral here. So you can see lots of Quidditch practice scenes. McGonagall's Transfiguration room was in the chapter house inside of the cathedral as well. And if you are a Marvel fan, Avengers Endgame was partially filmed inside of the cathedral too. And just some photos of our campus. These are actually all places where students can live. These are all part of our collegiate system that we have. So the photo on the left-hand side here, this is the interior courtyard of our castle. The photo at the bottom, that is of St. Mary's College, one of the larger colleges landscape-wise in Durham. And then the one right above it is Hilden Bede College. So nice, beautiful historic structures. And then a few photos of our city center. The city center of Durham is very easy to navigate and get around. I usually tell students that it takes maybe about 15 to 20 minutes to walk through the entirety of Durham city center, but it is beautiful and picturesque. I usually say it's very quintessential English. So lots of cobblestone streets and brick buildings and narrow roads. And because it is a smaller community, I mean, a lot of the times when you're walking around the city center, you'll see professors that are teaching you, you'll see other students within your classes. So it's very much kind of a family atmosphere in Durham. All right, and for our rankings here, we are a Russell Group intensive university. So we receive lots of government funding for research programs and projects on our campus, as do many of these 24 research intensive universities here. All of them receive about 70% of the government budget for research programs and projects, which goes right back into a student's education. We are ranked 85th in the world this year with the QS World Ranking System, so we are a top 100 university. And we are ranked either third or fifth within the UK. We were really excited to be ranked third overall this year with the Times and Sunday Times, out of almost 160 or so universities. So we are a top 5 university within the UK, and we have many subjects that rank not only in the top 50, but top 100 in the world. And just to give you an idea here, so these are going to be all of our faculties. So we've got our business school, arts and humanities, science and social sciences. Right now, today, we're going to hear from arts and humanities, and then the sciences from Darby here, who's in our engineering department and program. But you can see here for all of our rankings, I've listed out right beside them, either the UK rankings or the world rankings. Many of our subjects are very highly ranked and regarded. So no matter what you're studying on the campus, it's very much an amazing experience taught by, professionals that have been conducting research in this field for many, many years. For postgraduate programs, we've got maybe about 130 or so postgraduate taught degrees. Many of our 27 departments also have further research opportunities, whether that is a one-year master's by research or even further study for a PhD program. And for a little bit more about the collegiate experience here. So again, we're a collegiate university. We have 17 total colleges, and students, like I said earlier, can have a little bit more autonomy in choosing and picking their college. So typically a college is not directly related to what a student is studying. And also, it's not going to be all the British students in one particular college. It's a big mix of all international students, home British students, and so on and so forth. And a few of our traditions, and one of them that I mentioned earlier, are these gowned formal dinners that we have. So just a few examples here. The one at the bottom right corner, that is inside of our castle, the big dining hall in the castle here. Right next to that, that is inside of Hatfield College, the bottom middle photo. And then the one at the top right-hand corner, that is inside of St. John's College. So formal dinners can have themes to them. Sometimes they have, Halloween themes, Christmas themes. I know sometimes even they'll invite employers to dine with students occasionally, but every single college has their own take on what a formal dinner is and looks like, and is part of their traditions on the campus. And just to show you colleges at a glance here, so I know this is a lot of words and numbers, but starting on the right side of the screen, this is going to be a map of Durham and a map of where all the colleges are. So they're pretty much all spread throughout the city. These yellow shields represent where each college is located. And Durham is very walkable overall. I usually tell students walking from the train station up here, which is in this little red box, and all the way down to the Botanic Gardens. That is about a 40-minute walk total. So everything's very close by and easy to get to, but we do have a bus system that will run through Durham if students, need to catch a bus to get to the city center if they're further south here. But within the colleges, you can read all of them here in alphabetical order. There's Collingwood, Grey, Hatfield, so on and so forth. And then our postgraduate only college is going to be Euston Off College. So that usually has apartment style housing. So that's going to be studio flats up to 1, 2, and 3 bedroom flats. And then the rest are either going to be private, maybe ensuite bedrooms and whatnot. And the rest of them are going to be kind of spread throughout the city here. Unique about Durham, we have catering and self-catering available. So if you want to choose a full meal plan, you can see like Grey College here has the full catering here for postgraduate students. You also have self-catering here. So John Snow has self-catering, which is maybe a small kitchen space that is shared with maybe 6 to 8 students. So students kind of pick through what they want out of the experience. And another thing I like to just show off and tell about the college system is there's lots of events throughout the year. So things like I said, gowned formal dinners, there's lots of clubs and sports and societies that you can join. So it's never going to be a dull moment. There's always things happening in and around the campus. A lot of the colleges will also have libraries students can utilize, gyms students can use, maybe even theater spaces, music rooms. So it's kind of like a little community inside of the larger community of Durham here. And then for sport here, A lot of people don't know this, but we are a very sporty institution. We are ranked top 5 in the UK for team sport, and that's been for 13 years now running. So we have 700 intramural sports teams, but we have about 18 or so competitive sports
No,
leagues
just
on
leave it. I
campus
just
here.
wrote canceled.
Oh, someone put
yeah.
themselves on mute there. But anyway, some of these photos here, you can see just some of the facilities that we have. It was just redone a few years ago, I think back in 2019. So we have one of the only indoor rowing tanks in the entirety of the UK inside of Maiden Castle, our sports complex here. You can see a photo of one of our outdoor pitches, one of the female leagues just celebrating here for one of their wins. So it's really, really nice. There's a little toasty bar inside of Maiden Castle here as well. So students that are maybe not doing competitive sports or just doing regular sports and maybe on intramural teams can utilize these facilities. But I also wanted to highlight, if you do have student athletes that you ever work with at your universities, we have a very nice sports scholarship award. It's up to a 40% tuition discount. So this is for any student that wants to play in one of our 18 competitive leagues. So I wrote down a few popular sports leagues for US students, but this is not all encompassing, but things like volleyball, basketball, soccer, water polo, even American football. We have an American football team on campus, which is really nice. So if students are interested in maybe playing the sport that they love for an additional season, an additional year, they get a really nice scholarship award out of it. If they're interested in speaking to one of our coaches or learning about the process for applying to one of these scholarship awards, they can email teamdurham.postgraduate@durham.ac.uk, or if it makes it easier for you right now, just during this presentation, you can scan this QR code and it'll lead you to a form that you or your students can fill out, just if you want some contact information for how this works. Theater and music are also huge at Durham. So we have 27 theater companies and we have over 90 productions for theater every year. That's more than one per week. We have many theaters in Durham. So one of the big ones here is Assembly Rooms Theater, one of the photos. But we have the Gala Rooms Theater, and many of the colleges will have theater spaces as well, like I mentioned. So lots of theater performances happening. And we usually have over 10 performances at Edinburgh Fringe Festival every single year. We don't have a theater department, but any student can get involved no matter what they are studying in any of the theater companies. We do have a music department, and you can see here we are #1 in the UK for music, but usually, students can do tryouts and join many of our ensembles that we have in societies around the campus. So just keeping that in mind, that students can get involved in the arts even outside of their studies. And another scholarship that we're going to be coming up this year for students. So it hasn't been launched just yet, but it's going to be a small bursary for the performing arts. So a few target areas are symphonic conductors, a cappella singers, classical singers, so on and so forth. I say a small bursary. I don't think it's going to be any more than £5,000, but official, how to apply, dates and deadlines and whatnot are going to be coming up soon. So that'll be announced this autumn. Again, don't have an official date. I know our postgraduate applications open up October 1st. So hopefully we'll have more information for you all for this deadline that's approaching. For admission requirements here for students that are, applying to maybe Fulbright or Marshall, and then when you do their separate application on the side, it's going to be a lot easier than applying to Marshall or Fulbright. But we do not require any GRE or GMAT scores. So GRE for any of our general programs, or GMAT for any of our business school programs. So no testing is required for entry. We also don't have any application fees for any of our 130 postgraduate programs. So students can submit an application for free. There's not going to be a 60 or 70 pound fee that they have to submit along with our Durham application. Usually we look for about a 3.3 overall GPA. On our website, you're going to see 2-1 equivalent, which is upper second class honors. And the equivalent to that is just going to be about a 3.3 GPA. For application materials and requirements, we'll obviously need a copy of the student's transcripts. We'll need a letter of intent, typically from the student. It's usually about 500 words, and occasionally 1 or 2 letters of recommendation, but not all programs require them. So just look at the specific materials required for that particular program, and it's going to be through our application portal. We run kind of like on a rolling admissions throughout the year for Durham. So as I just mentioned, our applications will open up on October 1st, but we really do accept applications throughout most of the summertime. So usually we close them June 30th. We only have a handful of programs that have a staged admissions process. So one of those being the MBA program and another one being our Conservation of Museum Objects program in the archaeology department. But pretty much all other programs do follow this kind of rolling admission. So students can apply earlier if they want to, but usually applications will still be open throughout the springtime as well. Right, for tuition and residence charges, so this is going to be our full cost for any of our programs here. So our tuition ranges between 25,500 and up to 41,000 pounds. I will say the 41,000 is for our MBA program. It's our most expensive program on campus. I will say a majority of tuition programs usually fall between the 28 to maybe 32 or 33,000 range with a couple of outliers there, but that's usually what students can expect. For residence charges, if students live in a college and have a full catering package, a meal plan included, it's between, we'll round up to almost 12,000 to about 15,500 pounds. Living in one of our colleges, and if they don't have that meal plan included, does not have catering, it'll be between 85 and up to maybe that 15,000 pound range. So I've written out the total cost here in pounds and then again in US dollars. So again, it really depends on what the tuition rate for the program is and the type of kind of residence hall or catering or non-catering package that the student will choose. We do have scholarship awards. So I do want to highlight our Inspiring Excellence scholarships. They're either 5,000 or 10,000 pounds, and they're open to any of our one-year full-time postgraduate top programs. The only ones that it excludes are MBA, Master of Social Work, and then Theology and Ministry programs. All other programs, any Master of Science, Master of Arts, law programs, so on and so forth, are all going to be eligible to apply for the scholarship award. It's a short answer form, so it is a separate scholarship application, but it's 3 short answer questions to apply. They're things like, why do you want to come to Durham? Why do you want to study the subject? So pretty simple. And then these are the deadlines from this past year that I've written down here. We had 2 deadlines. One was in January and the other one was in May. They're going to be changing for 2027. I think they're going to add a 3rd round scholarship, possibly earlier than January, maybe in like November, December. I don't have full updates just yet, but anyone is welcome to apply. The scholarship award is open to any international student studying a postgraduate top program. If students are interested in the business school, you can see we have 3 different types of scholarships. So our Master's Achievement Awards, Master of Business Analytics, and MBA scholarships. I will say though, for MBA programs, they do typically require 3 years of managerial experience before students can apply. So students are coming back to you and, asking about, oh, I've been working for a couple of years, maybe want to go into a business program. What do you have available? You can tell them about these scholarship awards. But students that are coming right out of undergrad, they can apply for both the Master's Achievement or Business Analytics if they're interested in that particular program. For other funding opportunities, you'll probably have heard on other presentations, students can work on a student visa within the UK. So it's 20 hours per week during term time, but then they can up their hours to full time, so 40 hours during holiday breaks. And here's just a couple of examples for part-time work. We have international ambassadors that will do campus tours around our campus from Durham. Many postgraduate students will do that. Sometimes they'll be part-time researchers or tutors within their department. They'll work within their college, maybe at the Toasty Bar, but then also off-campus positions. Many students will work in restaurants, in retail, for events, so on and so forth. So we have a big job and internship fair at the beginning of every year, so students can take advantage of this. Students can take out loans. So we have our federal school code right here. So if they want to take out a federal loan for unsubsidized loans through FAFSA, they can use this code and send us the information. If they need to apply for additional private loans, we work with both Sallie Mae and Earnest. So if students have any questions, we have our loans email address here that you can write down, take a picture of, but I'll also send over a copy of the presentation. And then I think this is my last slide or one of my last ones. For veterans benefits, if you all are working with any students that are maybe GI Bill eligible, we have a list of, I know this is a lot, 32 master's and PhD pre-approved programs. So if students want to use any veterans funding, they can look here and see if any of these master's programs are interesting to them. If they want a program that's not pre-approved, there is an approval process through the Veterans Affairs website. All right, and then this is our North America inbox, my contact information, or if you want to scan this QR code to book an appointment, you're absolutely welcome to do so. But I will hand it off and now to our wonderful professors to speak about arts, humanities, and social sciences. Or sorry, arts and humanities, and then modern languages and cultures.
Great. Thank you, Alyce. And thank you everyone for attending. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great.
Yes.
So my name's Tom Wynne. I'm here in my capacity as the Deputy Executive Dean for International. I just had a great trip recently to the States, in fact, and I'm also Professor of French in the School of Modern Languages and Cultures. So Alyce, next slide, please. Great. So as Alyce said, we perform very well in the world rankings. In fact, you saw that Durham, I think, was 85 in the world. Arts and Humanities is even better than that. We are currently ranked 31st in the world. So your students would really be getting an absolutely world-leading education with us were they to join us. In the Arts and Humanities, next slide, please. Should probably tap my head or something. We have 7 constituent departments: music, English, philosophy, classics and ancient history, history, theology and religion, and their modern languages and cultures, of which I'm a member. Now, all of these departments, we consider that we are similarly motivated by what we see on our next slide, which is the transformative humanities. Now, we understand the humanities as not just kind of ivory tower subjects, but as subjects that engage in the real world and with which we try to enrich, shape, and change people's lives. So at the center of everything we do is this idea of the transformative humanities, and that can take shape in working with medical humanities or digital humanities or culture, creativity, environmental humanities, and so on. So again, you've seen how we operate within a World Heritage Site, but we really think and we aspire to be part of the modern contemporary world around us and of benefit more broadly. So next slide, please. I'm going to give you 2 examples now of the kind of projects that we host within modern languages. My colleague Rosie Song is chairing a project called Relish, which is reframing European gastronomy legacy. Rosie and her team, European team, work across Europe thinking about how food culture informs questions of social cohesion, environmental challenges, and so on. The next slide shows a project closer to home. This is the National Trust. As Alyce showed you, we are in a kind of a history-rich region in the Northeast. And our colleagues across the arts and humanities work with the National Trust, one of the major landowners, in fact, of Britain, to think about how local communities, who are often quite deprived, can benefit from a greener environment. So some of our colleagues work with local communities and local authorities and the National Trust to think about how the humanities can make a positive engagement with people's lives. Next slide, please. So that's what we understand by the transformative humanities. I want to drill down a little bit more into the School of Modern Languages and Cultures, which we call MLAC. So in the School of Modern Languages, we have over 70 staff. What's quite rare is that we have 8 languages. You'll see those there. And our specialisms are very broad. Everything from politics to music, theatre, translation, history, and so on. And what is very rare in the UK is that we have expertise across the globe and from the Middle Ages to now. So some of your students will be exposed to material and engage in material and explore material from the Middle Ages to now. And many other universities in the country, they simply won't have access to those rich experiences. So we would welcome them to explore new ideas for themselves. The next couple of slides will show us some of the recent-ish work produced by colleagues in the School of Modern Languages. Just to mention a few there. The bottom left is my colleague Raf, who is working on sort of fake fakirs in early 20th century Cairo. Marvels of Medicine, that's my colleague Yari, who works in the colonial encounter in Spanish America. So whose knowledge counts when it comes to medical activities? Indigenous peoples or the conquistadors. Next slide, please. And then we've got, let's say, bottom left, my colleague Santi working on contemporary Spanish cinema. Top right, colleague working on medieval history. And we've also got colleagues working on music, Arabic cooking, and so on. So your students will be working with leading research experts in the field. Next slide, please. We can offer a range of MA courses in MLAC, and my colleague Dr. Polly Dixon is much more up to speed on this, and maybe will be able to answer your questions. But there's just a selection. There's a preview of the MA courses that we can offer. The classic one, MA in Languages, Literature and Cultures, to more applied MAs such as TESOL and Translation Studies. We would hope that your students don't just work within the seminars and the seminars themselves. We would really welcome them to engage in our research groups, which involve academic staff as well. So you can see how we've got research clusters working on pertinent questions such as digital studies, performance and performativity, cinema. So we would ask our students to be part of that community within modern languages itself. And possibly giving research papers and so on. We're very keen to stress the new way we operate RMAs. So obviously every program has a very strong disciplinary core. So whether a student is working closely on, I don't know, German literature or Chinese philosophy, you'll have a very strong disciplinary core, and students are working through that, working in that chosen area with a specialist in the field. And we would also welcome students to take a range of elective modules from across the School of Modern Languages and indeed across the Faculty of Arts and Humanities to really develop their interests. So your student might see something in, I don't know, history or philosophy and think, oh, I can really develop my interests by looking outside modern languages conventionally understood. There's a web link there, but we can talk you through some more information sources if you wish. The next slide, please. So we've talked about how your students will be part of modern languages. They'll be part of our research culture. We would really encourage your students to be part of the broader academic community at Durham. And I'm giving you just some of the research centres and institutes that operate. So we have great expertise in digital humanities. We've got all sorts of projects going on right now, looking at the Black Death in medieval England, looking at how digital humanities can help us anticipate or read fractured texts from the classical period. The next slide, please. We've got an Institute for Medieval and Early Modern Studies, which brings together literature, history, philosophy, theology. So people working on global questions related to the medieval and early modern periods. We've got a Centre for Algorithmic Life. This is it's a new centre coming again out of digital humanities, thinking about principally how AI impacts upon the world in which we live. And I think I've got one more slide possibly on these, which is, yes, the Institute of Medical Humanities. Our colleagues play a considerable role in this. This is probably the leading centre in the country for medical humanities, thinking about how the humanities can help us understand better health and illness. And that's, I think, a great example of the transformative humanities. How can we bring our knowledge in history, English, and so on to bear on compelling questions in the world around us? So I think those are all my slides. Yep, they are. So I'm very happy to answer any questions you have about French, modern languages, or indeed the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. Okay, thank you.
Great. And then, yeah, anyone can type messages into the text box here. But if no one has any, we'll move on to our student Q&A, which is going to be with our wonderful postgraduate student right now, Darby Haynes. She's our Fulbright student at Durham University. She is from Texas, where I'm based, and is studying our biomedical engineering program. So welcome, Darby. And then if I can get the little questions starting, but then obviously anyone can chime in at any time to ask their own questions here. So Darby, just first things first, tell us about yourself, kind of your background, where you're from up until you came to Durham here.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so I graduated last August from Texas Tech University with a dual bachelor's degree in applied physics and electrical engineering. I've known for a long time that I wanted to do biomedical engineering, and so I wasn't quite sure how to make that jump over. And I thought like a master's degree would be a great way to do that. So I applied for the Fulbright my senior year, ended up getting it, and moving over here. I was really drawn to just one, the strength of the engineering program here. And then I got to meet Alyce and learn more about, the student experience in the town. And, I seeing it online, I really fell in love with it. And it honestly surpassed all my expectations once I actually got here. My program is amazing. I love my biomedical engineering classes. It's a lot of breadth. I didn't really get to choose most of them. I've had the major research dissertation, which is about a third of it, and then my taught classes in a very wide range of subjects from optimization and artificial intelligence to tissue engineering to biomechanics. It's been amazing. And then I also had a shorter, like 6-month long project early in the year that was a biomedical design project. And then I've honestly really loved my time on campus here. I'm really good with friends with my roommate, and then I've been hanging out a lot with the other American Fulbright scholars here, and then just people from my program as well. For studying, I do spend most of my time studying now, and then also with my big research project. So right now I'm basically doing like 9 to 5 in the lab. I got to leave a little bit early today to do this, but it is pretty intense with the research at the end. It's kind of expected to be a full-time job, and then it differs a lot from the US in that classes are like usually once a week, but they're for like 2 class periods. So you'll have like 1 hour of class and then a 10-minute break and then another hour of class. And you do that once a week usually, at least in engineering. So it's much more like self-directed than in the States where I was having class like 2 or 3 times a week. So it was kind of an adjustment, and a lot of my American friends have said the same thing. But like once you kind of find your footing and get the pace of it down, it's pretty nice. I'm also part of St. Cuthbert's College. I love where I live, the college you decide on kind of dictates where you live if you choose to use student housing. I for sure made the right decision on that. Fulbright basically pays for my housing, so it is a little bit more expensive, but I didn't have to like go through a guarantor or figure out how to figure out an apartment to live in all the way back in the States. So it was really nice just to go through the school that way. It is a little bit more expensive. Right now I live in the Parsons Field site of St. Cuthbert's, which is not super close to any of the other ones. It is really close to Maiden Castle, which is a student recreation center. And so I couldn't have picked a better spot, going to the gym every day. And then it's also about a 15-minute walk to school. So it has been really nice. For organizations, I haven't really gotten into a bunch of stuff within St. Cuthbert Society. I know there is a lot, but I kind of focused more on schoolwork. The St. Cuthbert's like a cappella group is actually practicing right now, so you guys might be able to hear that. I did really spend a lot of time with Durham Heart, which is a biomedical engineering club. It's very closely intertwined with my research project, and I actually got to go to a conference and an international competition in Vienna for that club in December. So that was really amazing. Just getting to be here has been so special for me as well. Like, I I'd never really been out of the country before this. So getting to just kind of, trot down to Vienna for a few days and then explore the Isle of Britain has been so special. It is really easy to like get around places. I'm from Texas, where I went to university was like a 9-hour drive from my house. So I was used to doing that, and now it's like, oh, just a 3-hour train down to London. So it's been super nice. And then there's a lot of great hiking spots on the weekend, like the Lake District or going over to Holy Island. There's just a lot of really special little like treasures that you'll find. Um, Not even like that you would have that are, super famous, but even like I've gone on runs just out in the fields here on the public footpaths and like found horses and gotten to see this the beautiful, beautiful Durham landscape. So it's been really fun exploring here as an American. Um, and then for after this, I'm really excited. I'm going to do a PhD at the University of Pennsylvania, still in bioengineering. So I think, um, having a master's degree from here really strengthened my application on that. And I feel a lot more confident going into it now that, I went to Durham. So it's been a fantastic time.
Yay, I'm so glad to hear about all of your amazing experiences and how involved you are and whatnot. I guess another question I have for you is what was the transition like coming from a US university like Texas or Texas Tech, huge university, kind of more rural, I guess, to being now within the UK, different class styles that you had to get used to. How was that transition for you?
Um, yeah, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Durham is just a very accessible city, I think. And then obviously knowing some Americans here before I came over was really nice as well to kind of commiserate with and ask about. And, having someone to be like, okay, buy the rail pass and then buy this thing and go to Tesco, has been really nice. So having that community, helped as well. And it can be overwhelming at first. It's very, very similar to the United States, but just, the first time you go into a Tesco and it's like you haven't seen like 90% of the brands before, even though they're probably the exact same things they sell in the US. It is a bit overwhelming at first, but it really isn't too bad to find your stride here. And then it's so walkable. It's really easy to go find like a new restaurant or find a new study spot. So it's been fantastic.
Yay, amazing. And I know you kind of touched on your college, St. Cuthbert Society. How involved are you? I think you touched on a couple of societies and clubs and whatnot, but like, what does your schedule look like kind of on a weekly basis? Like, what do you do usually in the afternoons? Is it
Mhm.
dedicated mostly to studying? I know it's a big part of your program and whatnot. But what do you do for fun kind of in and around that?
Yeah, I've really been getting into running. Outside of this, I did my first half marathon in May in Edinburgh, which was just incredible. Right now, my schedule is looking like being in the lab like 9 to 5. So it feels a little bit busier right now, but during the year, it was mostly like studying and classes, and then I had my big group project for the first half of it. So meeting with them, and then Durham Heart would also meet at least once a week. So I also pulled a lot of late nights working on the prototypes for that. Um, so it kind of changes with the seasons. The academic calendar is very different than the United States. It's not like the two halves you have here. So in the fall, you have your standard like September, October to December term with no exams. Then you have your spring term that's like January until April. And then you have your exams for every single class you've had, and a lot of them are 100% of your grade. So it really pays to like kind of study slowly throughout the entire year. And then after exam season, you focus like full time on your dissertation.
Right. No, I love to hear that. And I think it's important just to kind of talk about the differences, but also, similarities even and how it was to get used to it. Did you find that there was a lot of support at Durham? How close are you with your professors, the people within your cohort, so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's been super collaborative and supportive. I have a different professor for almost every class, and then we had one where a new professor would rotate in every 2 weeks. Office hours have been amazing. I think I've had office hours with all of my professors, and they've all been very, very kind and explained like the homework to me. And like one of my final projects that I submitted, I didn't really get the grade I wanted. And I wanted to talk to her about it, and she was so helpful and like really pointed me out. Like we sat down for a long time, and she took me through like every single paragraph that I wrote, every single figure that I made. It was really amazing of her. And then my class personally, was really small. There were only 15 of us. There was, I think, 11 of the level 4 undergraduate students, and then 4 of the taught MSc students like me, but we were all taking the same classes. So it was really nice to just be with them and be able to kind of commiserate and help with homework and study together. So I had a really nice time. I think it might be the exception. Like my roommate's class size here is much, much larger, so I know there's a very large spectrum, but everyone I've talked to has had a really nice supportive community, whether that's in their college or in their classes or wherever else. Everyone is very nice and supportive.
Yay. And I'm glad that's led you now to going on to do a PhD program at the
Mhm.
University of Pennsylvania. So we love to hear all the success stories from students. I will end my questioning here. Does anyone else have questions for not only Darby, but for Tom about arts humanities or the School of Modern Languages and Cultures, myself, just general information, anything that I touched on?
Alyce, there is a question in the chat about postgraduate
Oh,
students.
there is. Look at that. Let's see. Can postgraduate students live in any of the colleges, or are there only some other than postgrad only colleges? Yes, so postgraduate students can live in any of the 17 colleges. We have our one postgraduate only. The rest are going to be, I like to say, a mix of undergrads and postgrads, but typically they are kept separate, the postgrads from the undergraduate students. So they might have their own floor, their own wing, their own building, separate from undergrads. And then typically postgrads will also have their own common room space as well. That's separate from the undergraduate common room. So yes, they can live in any of our 17 postgraduate college, or sorry, any of our 17 colleges, but just the one Ustinov College is only for postgraduate students. That's a good question. Yes, you're welcome. Anyone else have questions for us? I guess it's kind of quiet. I guess we could have did a good job of answering everything.
All right. Well, thank you so, so much, colleagues of Durham University. That was a wonderful presentation and really wonderful to hear about so many different opportunities for academic and intellectual development as well as personal development within the university. Darby, it was wonderful to hear about your experience, and I'm sad I didn't get to hear the a cappella choir. I'm sure they're fantastic. I wish you continued all the best during your time in the UK and very best wishes when you get back to Philadelphia. It's a spectacular place. With that being said, many thanks to everyone who has joined us today, and special thanks again to Durham University for taking part in our Marshall Monday program. We look forward to catching up with you guys next week at our next session of Marshall Monday, and wish you all a productive and peaceful week. Many thanks, everyone, and take care. Bye.
Thank you.